can men and women really understand each other? I mean, brothers always say, you can't figure a sister out. She's tripping and spazzing out 1 minute. But if you really want to understand the man or woman in your life, my first question to you is, are you willing to learn? A lot of times, before we can even begin to explore some of the differences between men and women, we've already decided that they're irreconcilable. We're not going to understand them. And so we make a half-hearted attempt to try. We really are not interested in knowing why she's emotional, quote unquote. Or we could really care less about the fact that he does have a heart. You know, a lot of times I hear women say, well, I just didn't think men felt that way. Well, they're not skeletons. They do have emotions. The question, ladies, is do you care to be sensitive to their emotions the way you want them to be sensitive to yours? And likewise, fellas, a lot of times she can't be talking to me crazy in no kind of way. Okay, but are you mindful of the tone and the tenor in which you speak to her? She's as responsive to your words as you are to her looks. So the first question is, am I really willing to understand the opposite sex? Am I willing to understand a man? Men, are you willing to understand a woman? Which would imply that, brace yourself, it's going to be rough. I'm going to say it at the risk of really damaging your pride. But to learn, it would imply that you do not already know all that there is to know about men and women. And regardless of how many men or women you have experienced, how many men or women you've grown up with, you can say you have 5 sisters, you can say you had 9 brothers, you can say you got 25 cousins, but that does not mean that you know everything there is to know about men or women. So, realize that you don't know it all. Then ask yourself, am I willing to learn? Do I really want to invest in coming to an understanding of this person? Because a relationship is not going to work if you two are trying to transform each other. A lot of times, kids like those toys, Transformers, because you change the shape and it goes from one thing to another. Well, regardless of how much you bend him or her, regardless of how much, ladies, you try to slap the toilet seat back down, regardless of how many times you pick up the hamper and, pick up the clothes off the floor and put them in the hamper, fellas, regardless of how many times you ask us not to leave our makeup all over the dresser, regardless of how many times you walk in and say, why is everything on the floor? Why didn't you put the book back on the shelf? You're not going to transform us into you. So you're not going to transform him into a woman. You're not going to transform him into thinking the way that you think or prioritizing the way that you prioritize. Fellas, you're not going to transform us into feeling as passionate and adamant about the sports channel and 15 football channels as you do. It's not going to happen. But I can learn to understand why you have an appreciation for sports and how that becomes your downtime. And you can learn to understand why I have an appreciation to talk to my girlfriend on the phone for a few hours and how that becomes my downtime. So it really is a matter of whether you are willing and how much you're willing to understand about the man or the woman you're involved with. The second point is this. You want to examine and you want to evaluate the source of your information. Where are you getting your information from? How do you know that what you have come to know, understand, realize, think, believe about men and or women is accurate? You could be believing a lie. If I teach my nephew that 2 plus 2 is 5, he will likely commit that to memory because I'm an adult and I'm telling him at 5 years old that 2 plus 2 equals 5. However, as he goes on through school, he will learn that that information is incorrect. His success in math, in science, in progressing through grades depends on how much he holds on to what he learned first. You may have been taught in relationships something that is not true. You may have been taught a 2 plus 2 is 5. You may have seen the males around you be distant or not be emotionally expressive. And so you may have been taught, whether you came to this conclusion yourself or overheard it, that men don't have feelings. Men don't care. They don't care. Don't worry about him, child. He did not care. He'll be all right. That is an untruth. And if you take that into your relationships and you insist upon holding to the truth that he doesn't have feelings, he doesn't care, I should be able to act the way I want to act because it really does not affect him, you're going to be operating in your relationships in a lie. You will, in essence, be doing the work of the enemy. So you want to take your information, number one, take it from the Word. Take it from God. You're not going to find a more authoritative subject on men or women than the Creator who made them. There's not a psychologist today who can tell you the mind of God when He created male and female in His image. So if you want to understand your husband, if your wife truly is an enigma of 1,000 pieces to you, then the first place you should start is not looking that person in the eye and saying, what's wrong with you? No. You need to go to the Lord. You need to realize that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and you want to get wisdom in every matter of your life. You want to have wisdom applied. We don't want to do the Solomon school of wisdom. We don't want to ask for great wisdom. We don't want to be afforded great wisdom and granted great wisdom from God. And the one place we do not apply it be in our relationships. We don't want to be able to solve jurisdictional matters. We don't want to be able to balance finances and micromanage everything and yet never apply godly wisdom to relationships. So, number one, find out first and foremost, are you really willing? Am I willing to learn? Do I want to learn about this man in my life? Do I really want to understand how my brother feels? Do I really want to understand how my wife feels? And am I really interested in how my husband feels? Because according to the Word, you should be. So number one, you're going to gauge your willingness. And if it's not there, if you are saying, because I know some of us have been wrestling with that rebellious spirit. So if you're saying, well, he got on my nerves or she just crazy, it don't matter, but God can't even understand it because she ought. No. You're going to honor the Word. I've got a slogan, and I want you to think about it the next time you find yourself at a crossroads between what information you're going to value. The slogan is this: honor the Word above what you heard. I'll say it again. It's very simple. Honor the Word above what you heard. All that means is we are going to make the Word of God the final authority. So if your mama sat and told you every year from the time you were 5 to the time you were 25, honey, men ain't no good. Is that what the Word says? We're going to honor the Word above what you heard. Which means, men, if you grew up and your dad and your uncle told you, hey, man, you know, women, they want to be controlled and, you know, you just got to, make them know what is that what the Word said? Honor the Word above what you heard. You can put that on your Post-it, slap it on your mirror. So we're going to make the Word the final authority, which means now then we have to be responsible to now evaluate and keep track of what we're thinking. Before you go to respond, before you deem someone off as crazy or not able to be understood, what you need to do is go to the Word. Number one, are you willing to understand that person, their perspective, their history, why they are making the decisions they're making in this time? And number two, Are you going to God? Are you getting godly wisdom? Or are you just relying solely on your limited, narrow view and analysis and understanding of the world? Are you just taking your experiences and filtering everyone else's life through your experiences? Or are you going to God and seeing what His standard is? And then once you decide, okay, I really am willing, I would like to understand this person, what you're going to do